Hi, my name is Tanea Hibler, and I am here to present Is One Lesson Enough? Race in the Biology Classroom. I'd like to introduce myself. I am working currently at Brophy College Preparatory in Phoenix, Arizona. I currently am teaching AP Biology and Honors Biology. I've been teaching for about 15 years now. I'm also on the a member at large on the board for AMTA. I also help out with STEM Teachers Phoenix. And this year, I'm so excited. I was picked to be an HHMI Biointeractive Academy ambassador member. So I'll be doing some professional development through HHMI. And I'll be recording some videos for AP daily biology videos. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a dog owner, and I love to dance. So that's me. I just want to share with you a little bit about my experiences, and then after this presentation's over, I would really like if we jump in a Zoom call and have a discussion because I think the best experiences are when teachers are able to talk with each other in person and share and learn and grow together. Let's first talk about why this matters. I think it's really important that we understand that it does matter, and what we choose to do and what we don't choose to do can make a huge difference. We have to teach the truth, and our students deserve for us to not be afraid to speak the truth. And a lot of teachers don't always get the support they need, so there is some fear. These pictures here on the left are a picture that I found in a friend's classroom, and it basically shows that you know that black people and Asian people and white people, that they have a different evolutionary path, and that they're different species. That's what we used to teach in our classrooms. So, and that that stems from racist beliefs that people of different races are genetically different. And so racism is ingrained in our culture, and it determines who's in and who's out. It's a way to exclude people, and it narrates the story, what we're hearing in, what the story of our country is, what we hear in the news, what's okay, what's not okay. And so diversity is something that helps, and equity helps, and inclusion helps, but we really want to move towards being anti-racist. So diversity requires some variation. You have different people. Equity requires maybe different perspectives and trying to think about how can I help this person, um, and make things a little bit different for them so that their whatever barriers that they're facing, that they can overcome those barriers. And then inclusion makes people feel like they belong. But if we do not have anti-racist educational systems, if we are not disrupting the way in which we are teaching and the way in which students are learning, then we are not going to be moving forward and making a change that's going to uplift everybody. And so my goal as a teacher is to move towards I'm practicing anti-racism, and I'm trying to move towards it as much as possible. And I'm doing that currently by talking about race in biology. It's motivated me, it motivates my students, it's helped me grow, and it helps my students grow. And my students feel safe in my classroom. They ask questions. Some of my students may feel included for the first time, like they're part of the curriculum. And many of my students, regardless of their background, they are going to be wrestling with their feelings. And so I think it's wonderful. I mean, that's what learning's all about. So I hope this presentation today is going to help you. Um, and actually help all of us, because I'm not an expert. I'm a teacher, and I'm here to share with you what I've done and what's worked for me, and then have a discussion. So who are my students? Who are they when they walk into my classroom? Well, I work in a predominantly white institution. I am the only black female faculty that works here. We just hired a black female counselor, which is very, very exciting. So what I'm doing today is for my students, but what I'm doing today is also for your students. What I'm doing today is for all of our students. And so it doesn't matter what your classroom looks like. This work needs to be done, and it doesn't need to be done by the experts. It needs to be done by us. We're the ones who are in the classroom, and we really need to wrestle with how we do this, what works, what doesn't work, and how is this going to help students grow, help us grow, help our communities, help our schools, help the culture that we are a part of. So what do my students say when they come into class on day one? I have heard everything in my classroom. These are some of the comments that different students with different backgrounds have made when we start talking about race. After even completing a lesson, these are the things that students will say. Race is biological because it's passed down through reproduction. It means you have certain characteristics and culture. Yeah, race is biological. To be Asian is to have a different color. Race is biological. To be Mexican, it means that we're darker skinned and may need to get more vitamin B in non-sunny environments. I think he meant vitamin D. Being black means you have darker melanin. We can define race biologically, and being black means that you have more melanin and originally from places where there's more sun. Race is an adaptation based on location from long ago. To be white means you require lower levels of UV resistance. So I show my students the video, the HHMI video, the natural selection of skin color. And I used to think that having one really good lesson, or where I spent a couple of days talking about how skin color came about, that was a great way to introduce race and that it would make a difference for students. And then I realized that after completing a lesson, that if students carry misconceptions, those misconceptions are really hard to break down, and those misconceptions are not going to leave them at very quickly at all. So you have to really, 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 really work with students to give them time to process their misconceptions, wrestle with their misconceptions, and then work towards building a new understanding of what race is. And honestly, I struggle with it sometimes still to this day, and I'm 45 years old. Part of the reason is because I never had an opportunity to wrestle with these ideas and these concepts when I was younger. So these are some real conversations that have happened in my classroom, and it just gives you an idea of what can happen when students have space to dialogue and what can be the result when they don't have space to dialogue. I'm going to go ahead and play a recording from my class when students were working on their projects. We'll start in just a second here. You'll get a sense of how some of the students who hadn't discussed these topics in class, how they were struggling.
I gotta what all did you guys read about to convince you that I'm still there, that race is a social, I understand that when people what do we say about what country where the race, there was no changing in the people, there was no changing in how they acted, how they looked, but for some reason people thought that there was a difference in race because it is a social idea, there's no physical proof. But how did that start? How did people originally start to believe that there is race if in reality there's no biological set to it?
I think that's a good.
So this student was a senior and he hadn't had a chance to wrestle with these ideas at a younger age. And so here he was wondering things that maybe he should have had the opportunity to wrestle with these ideas that, throughout his high school career. And so he could maybe choose to delve deeper into it when he went to college. I'm going to play a little bit more.
And I think you have to look at who would benefit from there being racial groups.
First of all, something interesting about humans, they are very good at recognizing patterns, and their brain is actually made that way. But sometimes humans can recognize patterns that don't exist. I don't know. But like, I'm Irish, and I'm kind of like, the same shade as paper. So you might assume that all Irish people are the same shade as paper. Okay, that's kind of accurate, but that's a joke about Irish people. I'm kidding. A little bit. But like, there's always patterns. There's always a degree of randomness in everything. And humans tend to look for patterns even where they do not necessarily exist. There's also the fact that people, when in 1492 Columbus sailed across the ocean blue and, did a lot of stuff for España, right? It wasn't because he was white, it was because he was Spanish and he really liked conquering places for Spain. And they had to come up with some way to get the labor and some justification. So they were like, what do we do? Well, let's enslave all the native people and then say that it's okay because they're not white, right? So that's what they did. And then they did that with basically everyone else, right? Because there were also the Portuguese who sailed around in Africa, right? And then, because originally, it's a funny thing, right? Slavery started with like the Romans and stuff. And with the Romans, it was whoever lost the war, right? Like, for instance, in Greece, if Athens were to fight with Thebes and Thebes won, you would see an increase of Athenian slaves in Thebes.
So my freshman student is taking the time to help this senior to kind of process and think about these ideas. It's pretty fascinating, the conversation they had.
So yeah, you guys.
I was just gonna ask because I got a lot out of these guys. I was like a bit confused going into this because I'm pretty sure like when I was in biology freshman year 3 years ago with Miss Lennox, like I completely got the idea that race was completely biological. There was no social aspect to it, all these things, and like it's weird. So I believed that all through high school, and then now being a senior, it's weird to completely rethink that.
I think the reason why we think that is because we know that there are things that are biological, and I think we associate skin color with race. But skin color and race really have nothing to do with each other because there's people of different skin colors that are all different. Like I know black people that are Evan's color, and I know black people who are much darker than me and, my color. And then I've met Asian people who are really light and Asian people who are my color, or Asian people who are, people who identify as Asian come in different colors. People who identify as black come in different colors. So we know that we associate certain characteristics with certain races, but the reality is within any racial group, there's all this variation that exists. And so I think because we think of skin color as biological, definitely it is. Your traits that you inherit from your parents are biological. I think that's why we get that confused with race. And I think most teachers don't talk about it. Like we don't talk about race in school a lot, or at least in the past, when I was growing up, we didn't. So if you don't get a chance to work through your thought process, then you probably will think that race is biological. But how much, Evan, are we all the same, or Adam or Spencer, where our DNA is, you and any random person are going to share
99.99.
Yeah, 99.9% of your DNA. I got to check on one more group and then I'm going to call you guys all back, okay?
The process is really, really important. So what you do and how you do it. And I've created a Google folder just to share some of the lessons that I've done with my students. But as biology teachers, I think we all are fairly comfortable doing typical lessons. We may talk about characteristics of life, classification, cell organization, structure, evolution, natural selection, cell growth and division, heredity, DNA structure, replication. But I don't think we necessarily weave discussions of race into all of those topics. And so these are the areas where I believe you can talk about race and you can allow students to express their understanding, their thoughts. You can allow them to ask questions, look at information and data and tell you what they think. And it's a great it's a great opportunity to be able to see students grow over a year, and then to sometimes see how that may impact them when they move beyond your classroom. So all of these are areas where I would bring up the topic of race. I would ask students to write down the answer to the same question. What is race? Is race biological? And what does it mean to be black? Or what does it mean to be white? Or what does it mean to be Asian? Or what does it mean to be Native American? And last year I did this. So throughout, I collaborated with other teachers that I met at NABT, and then we did a series of lessons that we agreed to. We all came together and shared, and we did a series of lessons. And even though the pandemic happened, I had to continue to teach online. And so I continued doing the lessons that I had planned to do. So I carried this project all the way to the end. And what was really great was at the end of the year, because we were teaching virtually, I decided that it wasn't going to be conducive to give my students a typical final exam. My school didn't want me to, and so I said I needed to give a final exam that's going to be meaningful. So my final exam was about race, because race was something that was weaved throughout many of the discussions we had. Students had to use biological concepts to either prove or disprove whether race was biological or not. And then they created a video. The best part was that my freshman students, while they were planning and collaborating within their groups to make a video, they were in discussion with seniors who were in a creative writing class. And then those seniors were able to write in response to what they were learning from the freshmen. This was one of the student projects that was a result of that class by Johnny. Color is just 0.1%. Let's take a moment to talk about humanity. Categorizing people by color is total insanity. Black, white, yellow, purple, or green, the difference is not as big as it seems. Skin color is merely a physical trait. Biological studies can back that debate. We all have the same hearts that beat. No color is better, no color elite. Variation is more about evolution and history. Science has discovered this mystery. Variation in skin color is an adaptive trait. Ancestor geography holds the most weight. Skin pigment is solely for sun protection, passed on from relative who gives us our complexion. Human to human, we have similar genes. Science can tell us what this really means. DNA of people is 99.9% the same, only 0.1% difference, scientists explain. We are 96% the same as a chimp. That really helps to give us a glimpse. With a banana, you share 60% DNA. That's pretty funny, wouldn't you say? Bio tells us human species have no race, only variation in just a trace. There is no line from one race to another. We're all human, sisters and brothers. Skin color has long been used to divide, but science tells us it's just not justified. Let's not use race as a social construct. Race is about culture that we deduct. Human subspecies do not exist. So hopefully, now you're getting the gist. Color is only color. That is the deal. help stop racism because the issue is real. Please spread the word about the biological facts. Together, we can all make a great impact. And the teacher, Mr. Victor Cervantes, who is an English teacher at Brophy College Preparatory, he was kind enough to take his time and his energy to collaborate with me. I do believe that collaborations can really help you to grow, and you can experience something in a new way. I never thought I was going to collaborate with an English teacher on a biology project, but it worked out really well. And I will include some of the videos that my students made as well in the Google Doc that I share with you. So once again, one lesson is not enough. I gave my students the entire year to ask questions, to process, and just talk, and they really needed that time. Some students actually never came around to saying that race was not a biological construct. They held on very tightly to the belief that race was biologically meaningful and that those categories were real. And so no matter what I said, no matter what information, no matter what article, no matter what lesson we did, they couldn't let go of that. And so I think that's okay. That has to be okay. Kids have to be able to feel comfortable to say what they believe within your class, and you need to be able to communicate what your expectation is of them, but give them space to be who they are. And so as long as I do my job, then the students hopefully will experience other challenging information that they can process in other classes, and in the long run they're going to grow. They will learn something, and it's not my job to say what they should learn. I just hope that I'm helping the students to be anti-racist. I'm hoping that I'm helping the students to not contribute to the racism that exists in this country that serves to oppress people. And I was really, really pleased with the year and how it ended. And what I'd like to do is be able to talk to you in person on a Zoom call about what has worked for you this year or last year. What are the fears that you have? Because I did have fears going into this. I did not come into the school feeling like I had the people to speak with and collaborate with. I didn't feel like I had the space, like this was going to be widely accepted, that I wanted to have these conversations in my class. And so even though it's all worked out wonderful, there was fear, especially since none of my teachers had modeled what this looked like for me when I was younger. And going to NABT 2 years in a row and meeting other teachers and talking with other teachers and having discussions through webinars outside of my school has been very, very, very helpful. But I've had to think about, like, what biases do I hold on to? And I think we all should think about that. What do we need to be aware of that might get in the way of us doing this work? And then what do I still need to learn, or what do I still need to understand that I can make this even better every year that I do this? So I have resources that I'll share with you. I have lessons that I'll share with you. But what I really, really would like to do is for us to engage in a dialogue and see if we can support each other and maybe create a community where we can continue to share resources. That would be great. So thank you once again. We're transitioning to our Zoom call. I will have the link provided for you, or the link will show up in the session. And then for those of you who are watching this as a recording, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to watch the recording. I will leave for you a Google Doc, and then you should have access to both videos so that you can see everything that we discussed today. It's been a pleasure. Bye.